Ray, it's great to be here with you. And first of all, congratulations on your award. So well deserved. I love the themes, someone who demonstrates leadership skills that transcend these industries, who promotes understanding and tries to bring people and countries together, and who gives to the community. All these things truly describe you. I would just add one more about what a great friend you are, how much you care, and your incredible capacity for warmth and intimacy. So thank you for our friendship. It started back about 10 years ago, and it started with my writing about you in my book, Thrive, focusing on what you had said about meditation, which now is becoming much more mainstream, but at the time it was extremely rare for, for a legendary leader in finance to actually say that having been a 35-year-long meditator, you ascribe a lot of your success to that practice. So I would love to start with that and ask you why was meditation instrumental in your success?
Well, you know the answer to the question because we've shared that over a period of time. Has been the single most important influence in whatever success I've had because, as you know very well, it gives one an equanimity. It gives one a creativity. The act of repeating a mantra, which is just a sound, and then transcending into the subconscious mind, not only brings a peacefulness and a healthy state of mind, but it also taps the subconscious mind, which is where the creativity comes from. So, as you know very well, when there's so many things that come at one, and there's so many reasons for stress, the not having stress and having that equanimity and also having the creativity is a great advantage. That's been what it's been like for you. But let me reciprocate the question. That's been what it's like for me. How has it been for you?
It has been very similar. And I love the fact that you are stressing equanimity and perspective, because there are amazing qualities of leadership, but we have not really discussed them and prioritized them in the same way that we've prioritized other leadership qualities. And paradoxically, right now, during the pandemic, during a perfect storm of multiple crises coming together, more and more leaders are talking about the importance of resilience, both for themselves and for their teams. And so what you've been advocating for years is now, as often happens with you, incredibly relevant to our modern times. And I have always considered Marcus Aurelius one of my great leadership models, because when friends of mine in big positions say to me, Arianna, I don't have time to do any of that, I say, well, Marcus Aurelius had a big job too. He was emperor of Rome for 19 years, and 14 of these years he had to deal with a terrible pandemic. But he always stressed in the book he wrote, called Meditations, which I think is truly a leadership book, the importance of taking time to retreat into what he called your inner citadel, and find the strength, wisdom, equanimity, and from that place lead in a way that's much more unflappable and much more creative, especially in times like these, which are not just times of maintenance. You can't just do maintenance in business. You have to innovate. You have to be creative. That's when it's more important than ever.
I think that we should tell the audience out there that they must. It's one of the greatest gifts we can give anybody is the is meditation or the attempt to get acquainted. I don't know of anyone who I've introduced it to who hasn't, when they have given it a chance, hasn't said that it has a great impact on their lives. And there are just so many people that you would never imagine who are in very high, powerful, stressful positions who need it regularly. So that's one dimension. But you've created a wonderful company that is based on Thrive, that is based on the full dimensions. Meditation is one of those, but let's go beyond those, because we've gotten to know each other very well over the years, and I think of the techniques that you use, the apps that you've built, and the impacts that you're having. So what come to mind are ideas such as your micro steps. And also, I wonder if you could tell everybody the sort of programs that are operating to help people who are in Walmart, for example, who are stressed in their jobs, and the kind of arrangement. Because again, what we're talking about here to this audience is the power of mental health and equanimity to be able to deal with all of those things in a very good way. And you have so many of those. So would you mind sharing those concepts?
Absolutely. In fact, Ray, I don't know if you remember that in 2016, when I was still running the Huffington Post, I called you up and I said, Ray, I really want to leave the Huffington Post and launch a new company. It's always hard to leave something you've built because your heart tells you to build something else. But I said, I want to help people move from awareness to action when it comes to how to live our lives, because awareness is not enough. And I couldn't do that in a media company. And you said, go for it and I'll support you. And actually you were an early investor in the company long before we had proven that we could make it work. And as you often say, you never know when you launch something new that it will succeed. There are no guarantees, so you have to be willing to fail. For me, the key was to actually be able to bring to people tools and techniques to achieve behavior change. It's one of the hardest challenges. And we know that 75 to 90% of a lot of the problems we are facing now, skyrocketing diseases like diabetes or hypertension or the mental health crisis, are behavior-based. So we built this product which brings together micro steps for behavior change, all based on the latest science, with storytelling to touch people's hearts and role models to inspire them and motivate them. And I'm particularly excited about our relationship with Walmart because as their wellness provider for their 2.2 million associates, as they call their employees, we are reaching not just those of us who have the luxury of working from home right now, but frontline store workers who don't have that luxury and who have often been neglected in the wellness conversation. And then bringing that to factories, to workers in the caregiving industry, etc. So you mentioned micro steps. The reason I'm optimistic that this behavior change program within our app can work is because it's broken down into micro steps. So people who are listening to us and think of meditation, I don't have 20 minutes. I say to them, start with 1 minute. There is a lot of science that shows that it takes 60 seconds to course correct from stress, to actually get out of the sympathetic and move into the parasympathetic nervous system. and reduce the stress hormone, cortisol, from our body. I mean, it's an incredibly optimistic finding. And so for me, it's all about starting somewhere. And if 20 minutes seems too much, begin somewhere so that we can get the value of that practice. And then naturally we can iterate and increase the time we spend on it.
I think you and I have discovered, and a number of other people have too, what a lot of people under stress and are type A don't understand. That has to do with doing versus not doing. I think we think that the more we know and the harder we try, the more successful we can be. And while there are elements of that, we've learned that the opposite is the case. I know I gave shaper tests. When I gave tests, personality profile tests to people, remarkable people, you being, of course, one of those. But what I mean by a shaper is somebody who can visualize something great and then build it to actualization. Bill Gates, I gave it to. Elon Musk, I gave it to. Many such. So you can go on and on with great shapers. And one of the things that they had in common was that capacity. And by the way, many of them meditate, and for various reasons. I won't, for personal reasons, but I won't get into exactly who that is. So I think that there's so many misunderstandings of what it takes to be incredibly successful. That notion of meditation and allowing you the space and not trying so hard, but going in the opposite direction is one of those. You touched on another one, which is, I think, the power of mistakes and knowing one's weaknesses. I know we have that in common as an important quality. Like you said, when you started your company, nobody would know whether that was going to be successful or not. And what it really matters is to know how to go through the process of discovery process and use mistakes as learning. So I like you maybe to share a little bit about that, what you're thinking about that aspect.
Well, I think it's so imperative to build a culture that is willing to acknowledge mistakes and learn from them. And obviously, I know you are passionate about that. And we have brought the dot collector, one of the practices you have been using at Bridgewater, into Thrive. At Thrive, we call this compassionate directness. And it's a very hard thing to bring into a culture. People have a much easier time talking about their colleagues than talking to their colleagues about what they are thinking or feeling or don't like. And so building that culture has been incredibly rewarding, because it's kind of removes the toxicity of going around people instead of managing to work through disagreements, thoughtful disagreements, as you call them. And frankly, that's not just for business, it's also for families, it's in any aspect of our lives. And I know you and I have talked about that, but for those who don't know, I would love you to tell us how you landed on that principle and how you've made it so central to your leadership.
Well, I think I probably learned a lot through my experiences in the markets. They teach you humility. I've come to learn that I have to be an independent thinker, because whatever is commonly thought is built into the price. So you can't make money unless you think differently. And whenever you're thinking differently, there's a significant chance that you're wrong. And so finding out what is true is so fundamental to making a good decision and overcoming one's emotional barriers to that through meditation or however you do it is so important. And then I also learned that relationships, that truth in relationships brings about trust. So what I learned through my experiences over 45 years or so of starting and running Bridgewater is that in life, for me, the most valuable thing are meaningful work and meaningful relationships. If I can be on a mission with somebody to do something great with them, to win the battle, to achieve great things, and you can have that relationship that is deep and meaningful, that's very powerful. Well, honesty about strengths and weaknesses is so logical and so empowering in terms of building those relationships. But we learn that there are two minds in our mind. We think, what do you want? Well, it's almost like there are two yous in there. There's the conscious you that you're aware of, and it's logical. And then, as Freud discovered, there is the subconscious you that is emotional and so on. And to align those so that one doesn't let those fears of disagreement, those fears of discovering the truths about weaknesses and so on, don't let those things stand in the way. That becomes powerful. It also builds much greater partnerships because if you're carrying home thoughts or criticisms or failures, you're not going to be able to be successful. So think about how teams operate. Let's say even effective sports teams. Criticism and understanding is necessary to put points on the board. And we found that's worked. So it came about through that need to be calm and successful and get a truth to be successful in the markets, and also for entrepreneurship, because you start a business, you have to be an independent thinker. You have to have those who are committed. And all of that was enforced by operating that way.
It's actually very interesting you mentioned sports team, because we can learn so much from them, both in terms of what you said, but also in terms of their recognition that recovery is part of peak performance, which has been very hard for people in business to accept. And being a bit of a research nerd, as you are, I try to understand why are so many people in business living their lives and working in ways which are not supported by science and data, or indeed by the practice of great athletes, which is that when you recharge, when you get enough sleep, when you take time to meditate or eat right or whatever, you're going to be better on the court or in the field. They've proven it. You can look at the scorecard. It's not a matter of opinion. But somehow, going back to the first industrial revolution, we have revered machines, and after that, software. And the goal of machines and software is to minimize downtime. But the human operating system is different. For the human operating system, downtime is a feature, not a bug. And we are just now beginning to recognize that and see the kind of diminishing returns of hard charging beyond the point when you're actually operating from your best. Do you have a better explanation than that?
No, I think that's absolutely right. I picking up on this, I want to give you cases because your audience may not, or this audience may not understand. I can't tell you how many sports teams, heads, coaches, and so on, have asked me to speak with them and so on, and have their whole teams meditate and follow these practices. And I want to say that in the military, special forces, at the Army, generals and so on, are doing the same. It used to be thought of that it was like a flower child thing to do. It's right now a hard ass thing to do, that those hard asses are finding out that they can raise their level of effectiveness through this. So it may be odd to this audience, but to hear us, why is Ray Dalio speaking about this, or you as a very successful entrepreneur and businesswoman doing it, because it's now pervasive. And so for those out there, I want to, I think that, we've done as good a job as we can to convey to them the message, whether it's meditation or Thrive and so on. I think it might be helpful if you could give them action items to do. Where will they go? What should they do? Those who say, listen, I want to try that minute of meditation, or I want to try the micro steps and so on. Where could they go to get guidance?
Ray, one of the things I love about you is what a proselytizer you are. It's no longer enough to just lay the facts. You also want people to take action, and I feel the same way. So let me just give you a couple of my favorite micro steps. We have hundreds, and we're going to put some of them up for everybody to at least look at them and decide what you may want to practice in your life. But following up on what you said about the special forces, one of these micro steps is actually what Navy SEALs practice in moments of great stress, which is called box breathing. And you inhale to the count of 4, you pause to the count of 4, and you exhale to the count of 4. And, my point of view is if it's good enough for Navy SEALs in moments of stress, it's good enough for me in my daily life. And so we've brought that into many companies, many executives we are working with. And now we are bringing it into the call centers at Walmart. And I'm particularly excited about it because, as you know, call centers are some of the most stressful environments with terrible attrition, affecting customer success. So we are bringing in these 60-second Thrive calls, and every 2 hours or after a particularly long call, these calls are fed in that tell people to now take a minute for themselves, to breathe consciously, practice box breathing, or to remember what they're grateful for, which is a great antidote for stress. Or to stand up and stretch. We have dozens of different recorded calls. And if you think of it, it's a minimal amount of time, but it changes neural pathways in the brain. And we already got the first data in, and the results are amazing. So what is incredible here is that it doesn't require upending our lives to operate from a deeper, wiser, less stressful part of ourselves. And right now, this is not just a nice to have, it's pretty essential in order to be able to get through these times of uncertainty that we are all going through. So that's the breathing that you mentioned is one of my favorite micro steps. And actually the 60-second reset, as we call it, is something we're bringing into Zoom, and I'd love you to talk about what you are bringing into Zoom as an app that people can download. A couple of other micro steps from me have to do with how you start your day and how you end your day. 72% of people start their day by rushing to their phone before they're fully conscious, and definitely before they've gone out of bed. So again, we recommend taking 1 minute. This may grow to 20 minutes of meditation, but don't let perfection get in the way of starting. Starting with that 1 minute of setting your intention for the day, not being at the mercy of your incoming. Or again, remembering what you are looking forward to, what you are grateful for. Or, a long list of things you can choose from other than rushing to your phone, which, if you think of it, is a repository of everything the world wants of you before you are clear what you want from the world. What do you want to achieve that day? and how you end your day. Our micro step is to pick a time that you declare as the end of your working day, because I'm sure nobody listening has a natural end to their working day. If anybody has an end to their working day where they can say, I did everything I could have done today, I suggest they change jobs because they don't have an interesting enough job. So given that, declaring an end and transitioning to sleep, there is a requirement for a transition. And for me, it's like a hot shower or reading a book that has nothing to do with work, just something that means we separate ourselves from all the demands on us.
So, is it thrive.com that they can get these tips on? Where?
People can go to thriveglobal.com, but we are also going to post some things on a website that is available to all, and they can access them that way more easily. And I hope you're going to post what you're going to be bringing into Zoom. Maybe you can tell us about
we'll
that.
talk about Zoom in a minute. For those, as you can hear, audience, we think that this is like fundamental to success and well-being. In my case, you can go to principles.com and you can get whatever we have to offer on just about anything, principles.com, or even better yet, principlesinaction.com. And they're available. But on Zoom, it's let everybody know. Eric Yuan is the founder of Zoom, and by coincidence, Arianna and I have independently been helpful to him and Zoom in terms of their own approaches that we're talking about, and that has led to him to ask us, along with one other company, Coursera, to make it available within Zoom. So I think it's going to be January or sometime around then, that the dot collector and so on will be embedded into Zoom so people can do that. You're going to, why don't you tell them what you're going to be making available on Zoom too?
So we're going to make available on Zoom what we call Reset, which is going to include both pre-made reset guides that you can download in between Zoom meetings or whenever you want, that can help recenter you, and they can be breathing, gratitude, stretching, or, and that's my favorite feature, you can build your own reset consisting of pictures of everything you love in your life, your children, your pets, your favorite quotes, landscapes, a piece of music you love, and a breathing pacer. And in 60 seconds, I'll send you mine. I'll put mine up for people to see. It's amazing what a difference it makes, because suddenly in the middle of stress, you are reminded of what you love about your life. And then you can share it with your colleagues, with friends. We start every team meeting at Thrive with someone on the team playing their own reset. And suddenly we see another part of their lives. We see what they love. And it takes 60 seconds. I stress that fact because I know everybody listening doesn't have time. And that's often enough. So if you think of starting with 60 seconds, everybody has 60 seconds.
Yes, I think that's such a great approach. I think we're dealing with time, habit, if you could develop as a habit, a healthy habit, and accessibility. Those are terrific things. Well, Arianna, I think we've done our job to try to convey how this has all benefited us a lot, and to try to pass that along to others. And, so thank you not only for this time, but thank you for our years of partnership and friendship. to try to pass this along to others. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ray, for the years of partnership and friendship, and looking forward to many more.
Me too.